What's up, Domino community? I'm Lily Hevish, and today I'll be teaching you how to build a domino tower. So get your dominoes and let's start building. I'm really excited to share this tutorial because the domino tower is one of the most important types of domino structures to learn. I've already went through how to build a domino wall, a pyramid, and now this tower tutorial sort of completes the whole series of basic domino structures. Now I should note, there are multiple ways to make a domino tower. In this tutorial, I'm just going to share one method, which I kind of like to call the standard tower technique, and this is technically called the 2x2 domino tower. I got my trusty H5 domino creations here, so we're gonna build, and I'm gonna use a different color for each layer because it repeats every 4 layers. So I'm gonna start by placing dominoes horizontally on my building surface, and we're going to place them just like the domino wall technique, 1 domino height away from edge to edge. You can use another domino as a measurement tool. So if I place this domino flat, you'll see that this pink domino aligns exactly 1 domino height away. Now I'm going to continue by making a line of 4 of these in a row. These are all the same distance away. And next, we're gonna repeat what we just built, but we're gonna move it in the front. Now, the distance between the 2 rows should be exactly 1 domino height minus 2 domino thicknesses. And that sounds a little confusing, but let me explain. This full length here is 1 domino height. And if I were to just use this as a measurement tool, I put it right here, and we subtract 1 domino thickness. So we have the height of the yellow domino minus the thickness of this blue domino and the thickness of this blue domino on the other side. And it's really important to measure out this base very precisely because once you have the first layer down, the rest of the structure will follow exactly in the place where you built that first layer. So make sure you fine tune it really well. I'm gonna add another domino next to it and just repeat the same distances. And you can just check to make sure all of these dominoes are 1 domino height minus 2 domino thicknesses away from each other. It might even be a good idea to use a ruler or a straight edge, and you can make sure that everything is really precise. So all of these dominoes are parallel with each other. It is a perfect 2x4 grid. So now that we have the first layer done, we can move on to the second layer. We're going to take dominoes and place them on top on the edge. Now in this layer, I'm only focusing on the border, the outside of the dominoes. So I'm going to place a domino on top right here. Now to connect the 2 rows that we made in the first layer, I'm going to place a horizontal domino in the same direction. So it's connecting the 2 in the middle. Same thing on this side, and then we have the 2 outer dominoes like this. Now for the inner dominoes, we're going to place dominoes in this direction, so it connects the 2, sort of like the domino wall technique. Now for the third layer, it's the same as the second layer, but it rotates 90 degrees. So we're gonna place the next domino right here, and then connect the 2 like this, and then make the whole border around it. And now the middle dominoes are going to be placed like this to connect the 2 blue dominoes underneath, making sure it's really precise. And the fourth layer is very similar to the first layer, but that is also rotated 90 degrees. So this is just gonna be a layer of parallel dominoes that are all oriented in the same direction. Now we wanna make sure that all the dominoes are very square. Like if I look at the tower from above, I shouldn't see any dominoes that are sticking out from the side. We wanna make sure that everything is very precisely on the edge. Because especially if you're making a really tall tower, you want to make sure that these first 4 rows are really well built. That'll make it a little more structurally sound and easier to topple at the same time. So now that we have that down, the layers just repeat so we can keep continuing the pattern and then build it as tall as we want to. Now, one interesting thing to note is when you're building a tower, you'll see on the sides, it makes an X with dominoes that are facing outward. And then similarly on the side here, it also makes an X. Now, whenever you see the X, this is your signal that the layer above it should be a full layer of parallel dominoes that connect everything. So the way that I like to think about it is with the X, all of the dominoes are facing in the same direction on top of each other. And because of that, that means it's a little bit less stable compared to dominoes that are, say, crossed like this. Now, because it's sort of more unstable, we need another domino turned 90 degrees to sort of lock it in place. So that's kind of what this row on top does, it ensures that this X isn't going to like fall over or tip. This is really important when you're building structures because if there is a gust of wind, for example, if you end the structure on the row with the X, it is more prone to knocking over. So it's always nice to finish a structure with a full layer of the parallel dominoes that locks the X into place. But I'm not going to finish the tower here. This is a little bit short. It probably won't topple if I were to actually knock it down. So I'm going to continue to build it up taller. Now, similar to my domino wall tutorial, I recommend that structures are 13 layers tall at minimum, and that'll make sure that all the dominoes will crumble into the layers below it and topple it smoothly. Because if a tower is too low, it's not going to topple over. So make sure it's at least 13 layers, and if I look at this tower right now, we see that there's an X on this side, so that's actually a little bit unsafe. I'm going to recommend even 14 layers for a domino tower so that you can kind of lock it into place. So let me place another one on top. And perfect. Now we have a 14-layer tall 2x2 tower. Now before we make the trigger to topple this tower, I do want to point out a couple of interesting things about the structure itself. So if you look at the face of the dominoes, you'll see that it makes columns. That is your indicator that you've built it right. You would never, for example, see two horizontal dominoes that are on top of each other like that. They'll always be alternating on the corners. And if we look at the X's on the dominoes, like this right here, you'll see that the middle domino has a 3 domino window gap in between with the next one. And that is very similar to the alternating wall technique where you'll also see a 3 domino window gap. Now you can totally make this tower taller, like whatever you want to do, but there will be a certain point where the tower will become unstable. So just keep an eye on the tower. It's always nice to check your tower and look at it from every angle as you're building, because sometimes you can catch, if you look on the other side, if it's tending to lean in one direction. And if it is, then you can always just shift over the dominoes and try to realign it so that it's all centered and balanced. If I wanted to make a very tall tower, I would probably have to make a cube base, maybe a 3x3 or a 4x4, so it's a little bit larger, and then slowly go from a 4x4 to a 3x3 to a 2x2, 1x1, and so on until it kind of like reaches a point. But for this tower, I think we're just gonna keep it simple and leave it like this. Now the best way to topple a domino tower is by using string. So I got my string, tape, and scissors, and now we're going to choose a domino to pull out of the structure, which will knock down the entire tower. Now typically the best domino to take out is the domino in the middle of the X. So this green domino right here would probably be the best one to take out just because that's the weakest point in the structure. The dominoes above it and below it are facing in the same direction, so that makes it a little bit easier for that green domino to get pulled out. But the trick is, the domino that you do take out should be ideally 4 to 5 layers from the top of the domino tower. And the reason why we do that is because we need some dominoes on top of it to fall into the structure, but just be strategic with where you want to knock it down, because on this side, there's 3 dominoes on top, but on this side, there's 2 dominoes on top. Now, if you've already built the whole tower and you want to knock it down, you might have to unbuild some dominoes to reach the domino that you're going to attach the string to, because it's going to be a little risky if you go into a structure and try to tape something and it's already in place. So I'm going to actually unbuild a little bit so I can reach this green domino to take out. And you can plan ahead for this. Like if you're building a structure and you know you want to topple it at a certain layer height, you can attach the string ahead of time and then you don't have to actually unbuild. You can just attach it and then keep building the 4 to 5 layers on top of that. Here's the green domino that we want to take out, and then put the string in the middle of the domino like so. So now we can place the domino back on the tower, but I'm going to orient the domino so that you can't see the string. Like the place where we taped it is going to be on the inside of the tower, and the string is going to go over the top of the domino. So it kind of pulls it from the back top side of the domino. So we're going to place this domino very carefully. And to pull the string, I would recommend getting something that's taller than a domino so it has more room to like fall over and pull the string with it. Or you could have a weight or something fall off a ledge, and then the weight of that kind of pulls the domino out too. But for this, I'm just gonna use my own H5 Domino Creations field starters as my taller dominoes. So this large field starter is going to pull the string, and we wanna make sure that there's a little bit of slack on the string so that this field starter has room to tip over and then actually pull it out. If the string, for example, is too taut and there's not a lot of slack, there's not a lot of room for this field starter to actually topple over. Now, a general rule that might help you when you're doing this is measuring the string when the field starter is 45 degrees from the ground. So generally, the string should be taut at the 45-degree point. And you can always change the positioning of where you put that field starter, but I'm going to tape it and then we can cut the string. So we can tape the string. It's just at the top in the middle of the field starter, and then we can cut the string. And now we place the field starter in its spot. So one more time, we just measure 45 degrees. That's like right here-ish. I think that's where I should position the field starter. Now, it's always good to position the domino that's pulling the string in the same direction that the domino is facing, because we want to pull it away from the tower. If I were to put the field starter over here, it's not gonna have like a very clear pull when it's taking out that domino, and it might not actually come out. So we want to make sure that it's generally on this side of the tower. And for extra precaution, I'm actually going to tape down this field starter so it's a one-way domino and it's not going to like slide out on the ground. You just take a piece of tape and put it on the end of the field starter like this, and then you can very carefully place it on the ground. So now we can finish the tower again, and I'm actually gonna add one more layer on top of this so that there's 4 layers on top. I just wanna be really sure that there's enough dominoes that can crumble into the tower and fully knock it down. And now we just need the domino line to knock it down. So I'm gonna take the rest of my field starters and make a domino line here. And there we have it. This is the 2x2 domino tower. This one is 15 layers tall. We're going to pull out the domino that is 5 layers from the top. Let's see if this works. 3, 2, 1, go! Yes! It worked! So if we watch this in slow motion, the dominoes hit the field starters, which pulls the string and the green domino with it, and that one domino is enough to knock down the entire tower. Just takes one piece, and then you have a huge chain reaction. That is super cool. So now that you've learned how to make a domino tower, I recommend watching this video right here on how to build a domino cube. That is an extension of this tower technique. It's just a larger base. If you've gotten any value from these domino tutorials and want to support me even further, I have an affiliate link on Amazon where you can buy my own H5 Domino Creations. This is my own brand of dominoes made in collaboration with Spin Master, and they're the highest quality dominoes made for Toppling. Spin Master and I will be continuing to develop our line of dominoes with more colors, more accessories, and a whole bunch of stuff coming soon. And before we go, our featured community member is Tenegulis Domino, who has been making some incredible videos and is so underrated, so please go check out their channel. And as always, I'm Lily Hevish, and keep on building.